Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football strategy show, every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here, as always, with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinvold and Ross the Boss.
Ross the Boss here from La La Land. Fantasy football is drafting. We're drafting, Casey Scheinfold.
Oh, we
are. And you are drafting really well. And I can't wait to talk about drafts and football and anything you guys want to bring up. I'll talk baseball even. I don't care. The Reds just swept the Angels. I'm in a great mood.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're in a great mood. And let's just start briefly with baseball because this is a football show today. But we do have some dynasty baseball slots to fill. We have 4 spots left. They're getting snatched up. So if you want them, you got to send us a message. Come here, put it in the chat. You can just put it in the comments below, and we'll get back to you. We'll send you an email to let you know where to contact us. As far as football goes, let's talk headlines first, guys, because everybody is, there's a lot of people drafting now. Many have already drafted. They need to know how to rethink things, whether to trade for certain people. What are the main headlines? Casey, I'll start with you. Just throw out one.
Well, I think the biggest headline, and I don't know how fantasy relevant it is for this year, is Trey Lance was named the number 3 quarterback for San Francisco instead of the backup quarterback. I mean, that has significant impact on dynasty leagues, but not much of an impact on draft or keeper leagues at this point. But that's probably the biggest story in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and I want to say, I'm surprised that the 49ers did this for multiple reasons.
I'm curious. Well, I'm not shocked at all, but I want to hear why you're surprised.
I'm not surprised that they chose Sam Darnold over Trey Lance. I'm surprised they did it publicly because they're trying to trade him.
Yeah, killing his trade value.
Why would you say this is our 3rd best quarterback? You want him? I mean,
well, what if they're trying to build up Sam Darnold's trade value and they're trying to trade him?
If they're doing that, if they're doing that, they did the right thing. But I don't believe that's what they're doing.
Not doing that. They're not. Shanahan's not that bright. But
I
mean, guys, I mean, they gave away 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Lance. Think about it, 3 of them. Okay, they put the whole mortgage on Trey Lance. I mean, that's actually the bet.
Let me just add something to that, Ross. They traded 3 picks. They gave up 3 picks, but they also used 1 on him. So they actually traded 4 picks for the rights to give Trey Lance to someone.
So he played sparsely, not much at all. I mean, when he filled in a couple times, one was a game in the rain. I remember that. That was he plays okay. Nothing to jump up and down about. And the Niners are planning on Brock Montana. Brock Montana is their guy. They're going to ride the whole. They're going to ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, he knows the real name. It's not the usual screw up of names for.
We call him Brock Montana. That's how the San Francisco fan base calls him because they think he's the second coming of Joe Montana. And so Montana to me is I just think he's lucky. I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. That's me talking. I can have that opinion. That's my opinion.
Just to be clear, he's not talking about Joe Montana. He's talking about
Brock Montana. I'm not saying his real name.
So let me ask you this then, Ross. If you were starting a team right now, current physical condition, would you rather have Brock Montana or Joe Montana?
Joe Montana.
Current
Joe Montana. Joe Montana.
Joe Montana.
Joe Montana is unbelievable. I mean, Joe Montana in his prime was one of the best. I mean, he was.
I think. Listen, I know Brady has blown away the numbers.
I know,
but I still think there's an argument to be made that Joe Montana is the greatest of all time. I'm not saying that I think he is and Tom Brady's not, and I certainly think they're in the debate together. But I don't want to throw out Joe Montana as
well. Let's talk about Brock Montana. Let's
bring ourselves into the present.
So I mean, the Niners really have the philosophy of just putting all their cards on the table, which is shocking to me because during the season they never ever give like health updates to any of their players. They're the worst of any team in the NFL when it comes to updates on players being healthy or not playing. The worst. And to me, for them, I don't, Casey, that's a great question. I don't know why they came out and said this is our 3rd string quarterback. I mean, I don't see him staying there. I don't see him being in the locker room and saying I'm the 3rd string quarterback. I think they want to trade him ASAP and just don't want him around. There's something. There must be something more to the story.
I think there must be something more to the story because to go ahead and do that, you decrease his trade value. You also completely alienate the player. Like I agree. Doesn't seem like a great setup. But
I mean, the 3rd string quarterback, I always made him get my lunch for me, and I made him do all my errands when I was playing football. I mean, the 3rd string quarterback's like
it's like a dream job if you're in it for the paycheck.
the second string is the dream job. Third string, you could be cut any day. I mean,
He got a third pick of the draft contract.
So what's worse, third string quarterback or third string kicker? Which one's worse?
I would assume third string kicker
Third
doesn't
string
exist.
kicker is much worse.
Okay, just testing this.
So, I mean, the third string kicker is the Cleveland Browns kicker, whatever that
it's not Chris Barr.
Who do you think trades for him? Is it Tampa Bay or LA? The Rams or the Bucks?
I also have Minnesota Vikings in the mix to be the backup for Cousins. I was thinking Minnesota. I like they just named Baker Mayfield the starter, and that's my other big story. Baker Mayfield's the starter in Tampa Bay. They announced that. Thank God.
How long will that last? How long will Baker?
I love Baker Mayfield. I know you have a bitter taste because you're a ex-Browns fan. You're an ex-Browns fan.
I don't have a bitter taste about Baker Mayfield. I have a bitter taste about the Cleveland Browns
and how they've developed quarterbacks.
Okay, and how people get massages, get jobs there. That's how it works.
I'm not a fan of that either.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't be either. But I mean, listen, I agree with you. I think Trey Lance will be traded pretty soon, and there are some teams that can either use a starter or a really good backup because they need that as in the background just in case.
If you're in a dynasty league, sorry to rub salt in the wound, Casey, because I know you own him in one. What do you do with him? I mean, would you want to trade for him in a dynasty league? Like, do you think he's going to make it? I don't. I'm sorry.
I guess it depends on how your roster is. I mean, I'm certainly going to hold on to him. The beauty of a dynasty league, the beauty of a dynasty league is it's not like I only have 4 keepers to keep next year. I can keep everybody, and if I don't have a great, like if I have a really high draft pick where I can get Caleb Williams next year, and it's between Trey Lance and Caleb Williams, well, I'm kicking Trey Lance to the curb. I don't think I'd trade for him right now. I mean,
unless you're going to get him for cheap, and he's just kind of a lottery
certainly
ticket.
Without the mental health issues that at least that we're aware of, seems like Ryan Leaf, right? Like he's
right. But look, from a redraft league, a third string quarterback is radioactive.
But here's what I wanted to ask you guys about. I wanted to ask you about Jonathan Taylor and all this. He's allowed to seek a trade.
Yeah. Okay. For a week, it said.
For a week, you're 100% right.
I mean, who's going to trade for him? The only team I can think of is the Miami Dolphins.
It's funny. Anytime there's a running back available, Miami Dolphins. I mean, I agree with you.
Do you trust Raheem Mostert and Devin?
No,
Devon,
I mean, Raheem Mostert, he'll be hurt by week 2. I mean,
well, let's also say one other reason that people always say the Dolphins is that Jonathan Taylor, he's a great fit for a contender, and I think the Dolphins are that. You know, I've heard some other people talk about the Bears. I'm not so sure that that's the greatest fit for him, but I will say this from a fantasy perspective: wherever Jonathan Taylor goes, the running backs in that room are destroyed.
Okay, can I give you my analysis of the situation is this, because I have Jonathan Taylor in one of our leagues. I feel he's going to be playing for the Colts this year, and he'll be gone next year. He has $10 million sitting there on the table. If he plays this year, he's going to take the money. He's not an idiot.
I agree with you. If they don't get a trade, absolutely.
I mean, he'll be playing. He'll be suited up, ready to roll. But the Colts are horrible. I mean,
and Jonathan Taylor is literally the linchpin, in my opinion, of the value of almost anybody on the Colts offense. The second you put him on another team, Anthony Richardson has all the talent in the world and could end up being incredibly dynamic, but if he doesn't have a running back behind him, I think he's fairly...
Okay, just to play devil's advocate, I actually mostly agree with you, but the one thing I will say is if he doesn't have a running back, guess who's the running back?
I understand that,
Anthony Richardson.
I agree with you, and so he'll...
Don't make Anthony Anderson your running back. That's not...
Right, that would be bad. How do I respond? Then they don't have anybody else in the backfield to key on these defenders. They're just looking at Anthony Richardson. What are you going to give it to Deontay Jackson? Deion Jackson?
Deion Jackson.
He's not going to scare anybody.
I agree with you. And here's the other thing. I think Anthony Richardson also has much more risk of getting injured in that situation.
Guys, the Colts can win 5 games. The Colts are a bad team. They don't. I wouldn't draft any of their wide receivers. Pittman's a joke. Their whole receiving core is horrible.
I'm not big on the Colts this year.
That he can be in my opinion, successful as a quarterback in year 1. This is nothing about dynasty or
right.
Is if they can run play action or the read pass option. And if he doesn't have a running back, especially a Jonathan Taylor, if he has a third string running back, we're talking about third stringers. Deion Jackson was the third string running back 4 weeks ago before Zach Moss got hurt, and now Jonathan Taylor's gone.
I agree.
None of the play action works. None of the RPOs work.
I think you're totally right. But I'm going to make this is a bit of a hot take in that it's just a prediction, and who knows whether it'll come true. But I think that a team that you could look out for trading for Jonathan Taylor is actually the Minnesota Vikings. They're in the position that's somewhat similar to the Miami Dolphins. And I'll tell you the other reason is because I have Madison, and they're going to destroy that. I mean, that's just the way fantasy sports works.
You know, what's interesting is we're talking about, in a sense, because I could see the Rams doing the same thing going for Taylor. But you're saying that 2 of the 3 teams we talked about could go for both Trey Lance and Jonathan Taylor. Minnesota, we talked about. Like, imagine if all of a sudden they had Trey Lance as the backup and Jonathan Taylor as the running back. Kirk Cousins gives you 1 more year. You still have Addison and Jefferson and Taylor. Trey Lance would be walking into and Hawkinson, like the most dynamic offense maybe in the
Hawkinson,
league.
Madison walking to a bar. And what happened in this game? So, and another running back that's talking about going to Miami also is Jacobs for the Raiders.
I don't think anybody's going to touch Jacobs.
Well, it sounds like the Raiders aren't willing to part with him anyway. At least
the Jacobs was the #1 point running back last year in fantasy. I mean, this guy's the real deal. He's in the prime of his career. He went to an SEC school, the same as my best man, my wedding, and it's like
Chris Atwater.
Chris Atwater, exactly.
And I thought Derrick Henry was the best man.
No, Chris Atwater. And so, I mean, basically, what do you do with Jacobs? Is he staying in Vegas, or is he going to Miami, or is this hearsay? What's going on?
I don't think he's going anywhere.
Not only do I not think he's going anywhere, but the Raiders have said that, which of course they could have that stance and then still deal him. But I get the sense he's not going to.
I don't trust a running back who had a career year after and needed 300 and some odd carries to get it after he's been injury prone for the first 2 to 3 years or 4 years of his career.
It's a lot. And you're also going to have to pay more for him. You know, when we think about drafts, it's all about where you can get these picks.
Yeah.
His ADP is way up there, understandably in a sense, but you're paying for the risk up front. And I know I said this, Ross, the last time we did a show, in case you weren't here for this, but I was saying early in the draft, you can lose your league. If you make a bad pick, or certainly 2, you're toast. You want to get through those picks safely. And then Ross was making the point, it's actually in the middle rounds where you win.
So, and I have a question for you. Since I'm in our dynasty league, in addition to Trey Lance, I also have Ramondre Stevenson. How much does Ezekiel Elliott hurt his fantasy value?
I mean, goal line situations, case. Yeah, goal line situations, and half his money's guaranteed. The other half, he has to do stuff on the field. Elliott's going to be motivated. He's going to be the goal line guy. I can see Belichick.
I really didn't like that signing.
In goal line offense, he'll be the guy.
Because I've been pushing Stevenson as one of the best value running backs, because one of the true bell cow running backs up until they signed.
Not anymore.
Well, and that's the weird thing about fantasy. Certainly fantasy football, you don't see as many changes in fantasy baseball like right before the season, but in football, I mean, let's say Jonathan Taylor, for example, gets dealt to the Chargers. I heard about that as one of the rumors. Now, what would that do to Austin Eckler, and what would it do to Jonathan Taylor? I mean, maybe it helps them both in some way. I can't see it helping them.
I can't see the Chargers being able to afford them both.
And Spiller's having a great preseason there, but they're back.
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I read somewhere that the Chargers were
where did you read that? Andrew Schiffler, the guy Fantasy News, that some crazy thing that no respected journalist is writing this.
It was a Daniel Steele novel.
No one is writing this. It's some whack job that's coked up out of his mind in the middle of the night writing this stuff.
Yep.
There's no way you'll see Eckler and Jonathan Taylor on the same team. That's crazy talk. Come on, wake up.
All right, let's shift gears because it is draft season. I want to find out, and we can get back to headlines if you think there's anything big. I mean, like Baker Mayfield being named starting quarterback, that does matter.
We all knew. Taft was never going to get that job.
No. We all knew that was going to happen. But here's the question: where do you draft a guy like Baker Mayfield, or even do you?
Where do you draft him?
Where do you draft him?
He's not draftable. He's not. Okay. He's not a top 24.
That's what I'm asking.
He's top bottom feeder.
He is. I mean, he was right. I think
I
he's
think-
basically
my
the
mind
third
is gonna
think-
draft Baker
quarterback.
Mayfield unless it's a 30, unless it's a 20-team league. Then you
He's
draft
your
him.
third quarterback if you have that much space on your bench.
this shows
in
you
a
how far
single
Trey-
quarterback league.
This shows you how far Trey Lance has fallen. Trey Lance is now not in the top 60 quarterbacks. Like he
Well, he
will
shouldn't
never
be.
be.
I mean, he has no way to get on the field. But Baker Mayfield will probably, if you're in a 12-man league, you're not going to see Baker Mayfield drafted. So you can pick him up on waivers later if you want.
Chris Atwater says. Oh,
What do you say?
Like we're both clicking at the same
I'll
time.
let you do it, Daniel.
Okay,
You're
here
in
we
charge.
go.
What did this genius
Chris
say?
Atwater says 75th round for Baker Mayfield. I think
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
That's
I
about
got it
right.
Sounds right, Atwater.
So here. Okay, Ross, we talked about quarterback values the last time we were on the
Yeah.
show together, but I want to do it again. Where would you look for value, especially at the quarterback position? I'll put it up for both of you, but Ross, I'll start with you.
I mean, again, I'm a believer that you need to take a top tier quarterback to win your league. You got to take the Hurts, you got to take the Burrow, you got to take the Mahomes, you got to take these guys.
Well, hold on. Let me just throw one thing in there to get your analysis on this, Ross. I agree with you actually across the board, but doesn't it also make a difference what the setup of the league is? Like, is it super flex?
I'm
Or
saying
is it-
average standard. I mean,
Yeah,
people
it's
have
average-
people
Flex, you're taking quarterback 1 through
Okay, so you're saying
6.
average standard league where there
average
isn't
one
super-
quarterback.
If it's not super flex, then I don't know. I think that changes things.
If it's
I
not
take-
super,
I
I'm
take the
listening.
elite quarterbacks earlier in Superflex because you
See,
first
what
of all,
I'm
you
worried
need
about
two
is
of them.
this, guys. I'll be honest. It's not like I think like Trevor Lawrence is going to have a great year,
I
but
agree.
he's going to have weeks when he's not going to be consistent. He's going to have weeks where he's not getting the numbers like Mahomes and Burrow and Allen does almost every week with and Hurts running the ball in for a touchdown. He's good for 12 to 14
You're
touchdown
right.
rushes a season. I mean, it's a huge advantage. It really is. And that's what scares me is those weeks when you need a win and you have one of these second tier, third tier guys starting and you're not winning because your quarterback doesn't come through. And that's the one thing that makes me nervous.
I actually completely agree with you, Ross. The only thing I'm saying is that in Superflex, I think it's even more true.
But Superflex is a whole different situation.
Yeah.
I mean, your first two picks
I
could be
tend-
quarterbacks.
In regular flex, in the standard flex leagues, if one of those top quarterbacks falls to me at a position of value,
Right.
obviously I'm going to take them. But I guess I believe that some of those second tier quarterbacks can provide enough to win if you don't have to stretch to take Mahomes, Allen.
I mean, I love Lamar Jackson. Do I trust him playing in November? No, I don't. I feel get hurt again like he does every year. I have no trust in Lamar Jackson, guys. I mean, and Tua, I love Tua. I love his weapons,
and I'm
but
not
he's not going to
sure-
be playing in November. He's going
I'm
to be
not
hurt.
sure. I haven't looked, but I remember specifically watching Buffalo the last 2 months of the season, thinking Josh Allen was not a top tier quarterback. Now, he might
tell
have been
people that.
hurt, but I don't know. Or is it just he's not the great? I mean, he played college in Wyoming and has been in Buffalo his whole career. You would hope he'd be a good cold weather quarterback, but there was nothing exceptional about him at the latter half of the season last year.
I mean,
And Diggs, his favorite receiver, he's been tweeting about getting out of Buffalo. He's not happy there. He doesn't like Allen, and he's been public about it. And that's not a good situation when your top receiver doesn't have that wants out of Buffalo. It's not good. It's not good.
I think Buffalo screwed the pooch when they so openly went after DeAndre Hopkins. I think that just sent Stephon Diggs into that kind of wide receiver mentality of I'm the diva sort of.
Although
now you're
wasn't he
dancing
already-
with somebody else.
I agree with you. It didn't help, but wasn't he already in that space? If I recall.
Yeah,
correctly?
I mean, do you remember Casey? Remember he lost the game against I want to say Cincinnati, and he was like so pissed off that he didn't talk to any of his teammates and just left the stadium or
Well, I mean,
something.
what I
Wasn't there something
heard
there about that?
What I heard is that he felt like they were not listening to him about play calling. Essentially, he
That's
was
that
like,
you're right
And
about
that
that
could be.
too.
I wasn't.
I
don't
remember both
that.
those things, guys, and he's not happy there. And I'm staying away from Josh Allen. I'm not drafting him in any of my leagues. I feel there's a tense situation going on there, and they did not improve in the wide receivers at all. At
Yeah,
that place.
I think the best values at quarterback are in the kind of Justin Fields, Daniel Jones area where you get somebody who you don't have to pay an exorbitant amount for can still give you some on the ground. I mean, Justin Fields was a top 10 quarterback the last 6 weeks.
Oh, he's a running machine.
Or top 5.
And he could be this year's
and they
Jalen
added
Hurts.
And they added DJ Moore, and they have so Daniel Jones, they're trying to build around. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's jump. Hold that thought. That kind of middle tier thought. We'll get to that. This is more of a back end quarterback question. Chris Atwater, Ross's best man. That's a joke, Chris. We do it all the time.
We know that. I mean, you don't have to say it.
Yeah,
now he made it not funny because you said it's a joke.
You ruined it.
Killed it.
Killed
the joke.
I just
didn't say he was his maid of honor.
Look, I just set Ross up for this whole rant, and he's complaining. All right.
Okay. So Geno
Chris
Smith.
says, do you guys believe in Geno Smith? So, Case, let's start with you.
It's interesting because my first instinct is to say
hold on.
no.
He said from a value perspective.
Right.
So
Okay. But I'll answer both.
Okay.
My first instinct is to say no because he was so terrible at the beginning of his career. But then I remember who he was brought up to play for, which was the New York Jets, who Dan complains about the way the Cleveland Browns handle quarterbacks. I would say the Jets are right around the same level in terms of an inability to develop a good quarterback. Mark Sanchez, Sam Darnold, like you can go down the list.
Sam Darnold,
and he's got crazy weapons around him. You got Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet in the backfield. You got Jackson Smith-Njigba that they added to go with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
Njigba's hurt. He's having surgery.
He's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks. So, yeah.
Okay, so he was that first week of the season.
Yeah, keep going.
But anyway,
Lockett
I still believe he's a top 10 to 15 quarterback. And you can get him for at quarterback 16 or 17. So in that analysis, he's a good value pick.
I mean, career year last year, yes. Did he play over his value? Yes. Will he do it again this year? No. I don't think he's going to have a great year this year. I would stay away from him. He just had an unbelievable season last year, and he's not that good of a quarterback. So just stay away from Geno
I'm
Smith.
going to agree with Ross on this one. I think he's going to finish maybe 16th, something like that, maybe 17th, and
maybe 20.
Just doesn't, and it could be even further back than that. So I don't want to pay for a career year for a guy like that, especially because he just doesn't have the upside.
This is the thing I see all the time, guys, and I was right about Jonathan Taylor last year whenever he was picking him first because of what he did the year before. Don't go by players what they did the year before. That's the big trick in fantasy sports and any sports.
Right. So you heard it here first from Ross.
It's a trick.
Don't pick Geno Smith first. You heard it here.
Don't pick him first, but don't look at his year. Oh my God, this guy can throw 30 touchdown passes this year. He's not going to do that.
I mean, he's also not a running quarterback, so
he's not. And in Seattle, will they be okay? I mean, I have faith in Pete Carroll. I think he'll put a good team on the field.
Not for fantasy.
Yeah,
not with Geno Smith.
And so I'll just say this, since I disagree with both of you, Chris.
Yep.
I was born at the University of Alabama. Who do you trust?
You were born there. It's true.
Oh, that was a cheap shot.
That's a cheap shot. Can't use your SEC. Talking about an unbelievable documentary I watched, the Swamp King, the story about the Florida.
I haven't watched
team.
it yet. I saw it on Netflix.
It's all about the SEC and how it's unbelievable. You guys have to watch
that one.
It was great. I suggest it's a must watch to anybody who likes football.
All right, now let's jump back. We were talking about Daniel Jones came up. I want to know your guys' sense of value, and then we'll shift to wide receivers because I want to hear about that too. But Daniel Jones, where does he fall in this? I mean, Casey, you mentioned
I think he's a top 10 quarterback. I do. Now I'm a Giants guy. I'll admit my bias, but this is a guy who has.
That should make you biased in the other direction.
I know, but it's not September yet, so I'm still optimistic about
holding
the
out hope.
And the Yankees have lost 10 out of the last 11 games.
They lost today to the Nationals.
That's 10 out of 11. Thank you. So I'm not feeling optimistic about them. So I have to have my optimism somewhere. So they invested heavily. They don't have stud wide receivers. I'm not going to say they do at all. If Darren Waller stays healthy, that's a big if. We all know that. And I pointed this out on the show last time I was on. One of the reasons Darren Waller has a real hard time coming back from injuries is because he's a recovering addict. So he can't take any of the narcotic pain medication that a lot of the other players can take to get back on the field. And so he has to use Tylenol and Advil, which aren't the same as some of the other things that players take to play. But anyway, and he's got a good Saquon Barkley back, right? I know Ross says don't go on what he did last year, but look what he can do when he's healthy. He's
but this is a whole career. He was always when healthy. He's great.
They've invested in the offensive line.
Oh yeah,
and Daniel Jones can run. I mean, other than his notorious trip over the 25-yard line when he was going into the end zone against the Eagles, I think his rookie year, he's been a dynamic. He's gotten he's a top 6 or 7 running.
I like the Duke grad a lot. Casey, I like him. The only thing I don't like is the receiving core in New York. When Slayton's your number one receiver, I mean, it's I know they have Hewitt. People like that guy Hewitt, but overall, there's just receiving Hyatt. That's
Leland Hyatt. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they like him a lot.
But Hewitt, it's not taxes.
Hyatt. You're right. Okay, so long story short, I'm afraid of their receiving core. I don't think it's.
Yeah, they have a bunch of slot receivers. But when Isaiah Hodgins and Darius Slayton were out on the field on the perimeters, Darius Slayton has been really good for them. He just got hurt last year.
I don't think he's a number one guy. I think he's a
no. They don't have a true number one, but they do have X receivers to play on the outside.
They do, but I
have
just
a
little
ton
cautious
of slot
there.
receivers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that in a second. But I did want to make a comment about something you said about Saquon Barkley. The running back is the one position where I do trust the big year. Not necessarily as much with Josh Jacobs, just because I think you have to pay so much. But if a guy like Saquon Barkley can do that, I feel that running backs they're more independent in value than some of these other players. However, quarterbacks are the most independent in value. If they're putting up the numbers, they're just going to keep putting up the numbers. All right, let's jump in with Uncle Ted says, "What up? Good to see you, Uncle Ted." Chris had a good laugh over the Alabama reference. And Uncle Ted says, fade all tight ends and grab Ferguson, Musgrave, and Michael Mayer.
So Ferguson is the starting tight end, I guess, for Dallas Cowboys. Did they announce that? Is he the starter? I
think they did. I think they did, yeah.
And Michael Mayer, again, it's Vegas. I just don't know about those.
Michael Mayer, he'll come to kill you on Halloween, and Mike Myers will.
Mike Myers, let's call him Mike Myers. That's a good one. We'll call him that for now on. That's his nickname.
That's
Mike
not
Myers.
my bag, baby.
I like that. Okay, but I mean, I can't invest in a tight end that I haven't seen catch the ball. I just can't do it. So
I do agree with Uncle Ted about Ferguson, though.
You've even seen him play. How can you agree with them?
Is
Dallas's offense?
Is this
okay?
Is this Turd Ferguson we're talking about? I'm just making sure.
Okay, it's Joe Ferguson, the quarterback for the Bills back in the day. That's who it is.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I mean, here's the thing. I also just agree with Uncle Ted in general. If you're not gonna get Travis Kelce,
okay,
I think you do fade tight ends.
You fade tight ends,
and
yeah.
Yes, I agree. I also agree with Ross in that you're not likely to be able to trust these guys, but where are you going to put your value? So I think if you don't get Kelce and let's say you're drafting a top quarterback early and you're getting your wide receivers, I think tight end is a good position to win.
You know who's my number 2 tight end right now to draft? It's Freiermuth for Pittsburgh. That's who I'm grabbing in a lot of my leagues right now.
I'm going to jump ahead
not
on
early,
the comments
but late. But I love Freiermuth.
Because Uncle Ted made the same point I was going to make.
All right, because Dallas Cowboys have had 10 tight ends in top 10 years straight. That's quite a stat. Okay, so you knew that point as well?
Yes, they've always had strong tight end play, whether it was last year Dalton Schultz or...
They really do, every time. I mean, I remember...
Do you trust McCarthy? I mean, I don't trust Dallas Cowboys at all. I would not draft a Cowboy if my life 10 this year. They're horrible.
Before Dak Prescott got hurt, I'm not a Dak Prescott fan, so I'm going to put this out there. But before he got hurt in the season a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, he was a top 3 or top 4 quarterback at that point. Like he was
having a tremendous year. You're 100% right.
He can keep fantasy players relevant in his offense.
All right, Chris Atwater says, I like Daniel Jones just fine, but I agree with Ross the Boss about the receivers. Sorry, Giants fan.
Whatever, Chris.
I think you actually agree with him. And
I do. But I think Daniel Jones can be successful in spite of that. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks be successful in the past without having good wide receivers.
That's true. All right. Uncle Ted says, if you draft Jefferson, then Jordan Addison is a must draft. Interesting. Imagine that.
Stacker.
that wide receiver if Addison can pop off big. What do you guys
Well,
think?
then I would say the must add is Kirk Cousins, not Jordan Addison. Like if Addison and Jefferson are both popping off, guess who's throwing them 2 to 3 touchdowns per game? Like that's
Yeah, it's interesting because my initial response was I don't usually like to have two wide receivers on the same team.
I don't either.
Because they're always taking from each other in some way.
If
But
you
I
can
love
get-
stacks.
If you get Addison in the 8th or 9th round, I think I wouldn't draft him too early though.
I'd almost rather have if Hawkinson to go with that than both wide receivers.
Listen, if you can stack an actually good tight end with a quarterback, I think that's a great thing to do because there's so few tight ends that offer value. I mean, even if let's say you fade tight end and you grab Ferguson, let's say, and Uncle Ted makes this point right here. Dak plus CD plus Ferguson is a good, cheap ADP stack. I agree. And not only that, you can probably get this trio right here.
Yeah, you'd have to draft CeeDee Lamb first, obviously,
exactly,
and then Dak late, and then I mean Ferguson is a end of the draft guy.
Okay, Ross had a visceral response to Dak. Let's hear
I'm just not a Cowboy fan, and
neither am I. I'm a Giants
I root
fan,
against the Cowboys,
but I have to be a fantasy football guy.
And they haven't been to the Super Bowl since Casey was born. So I mean, for me to say like
true?
this, I just made that up, Casey. Just go.
They
along
won
with
a
it.
lot when I was in high school.
Okay, just
that was after you were born.
I think.
Okay, it's a compliment. Keep going. Okay, so basically, no, you don't want to draft Cowboys. Just stay away. CeeDee Lamb's the only one I would want out of that group right there, Ferguson and Dak.
I mean, I almost said Tony Dorsett, but
Tony Dorsett, number 33.
Yeah, but I think that,
Ken White.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that their running back would be a decent bet to draft.
Like Pollard, I'm afraid he might get hurt. He's a hurting machine.
Yeah, and
running back.
It also depends on ADP because you're building in risk anytime you take
Pollard's a second round, third round guy. He's going to be drafted very high. He's an ADP is very
high. Listen,
so
Ross, I wonder if you'll agree with this because of the way you responded when I was talking about something. But when I said I can trust running back big years, I don't mean I want to invest heavily in them. Even so, because first of all, there's a lot of committees out there. Injuries happen so often. When I say you can kill your draft in the first 3 rounds, running backs are the top way you can do it. You draft a guy like Jonathan Taylor and you're like, oh, it's going to be so great. Look what happened last year.
Or Saquon Barkley for like 3 years in a row.
That's right.
Or Steven Jackson when he played for the Rams and he destroyed me that year. I'm still mad about it.
I had a
Steven was Jackson. Like the second play of the season. Like
I had him
they give the ball to Jackson and he's out for the year. It's
no, I mean, oh my God. I mean, it's another reason to invest.
I invested heavily in Javonte Williams.
Another reason you buy tequila and you drink it after your player gets injured. I understand.
Also true. All right, Chris Atwater says I'm huge on Michael Mayer. Uncle Ted, Notre Dame.
I like John Mayer. John Mayer is unbelievable.
He's talented.
Quite a tale. Oh, it's Jonathan.
Very good looking.
Jonathan Mayer now. Notre Dame starting tight end. Mayer is Kittle 2.0.
Well, that's not necessarily a great thing. Kittle missed like the better part of 3 seasons with injuries.
You talk about a guy that has not caught an NFL pass yet that's better than Kittle. You guys are smoking too much of that funny stuff.
All right. Now, Uncle Ted then says, Jimmy Garoppolo loves to throw to tight ends, made Kittle. Michael Mayer is good enough to trade Waller away. All the signs do point that Mayer could be a good value, but
who was the last? Let's answer this question. I know the answer. Tell me the last great rookie tight end that had a great season. I'll tell you who it is.
Mike Ditka.
You're never going to guess it. So who is it, Casey?
Mike Ditka.
Mike Ditka. You're right.
Is it actually? Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what?
Sorry, Ross.
Last time we were on the show last week, we had a conversation about tight ends, and a lot of people were throwing out rookie tight ends, and I kept thinking to myself, were they really good in their rookie year?
No,
Jeremy
Mike Ditka is the last one who had a good rookie year.
All right, hold on. Chris Atwater's bringing up one. Jimmy Graham
I'll look it up.
Good in his rookie year?
Did you hear he's making a comeback and he got caught for something?
He was weaving in and out of traffic on some kind of substance.
He's making a comeback. Jimmy Graham. I used to love him when he played for Green Bay. I loved Jimmy Graham.
I loved him when he played for the Saints.
The Saints too.
All right, Chris Atwater. Speaking of the Saints, he's a Saints fan.
I don't trust Mike
McCarthy. So Dallas players are out for me. He was such a crap play caller in New Orleans. He fell in love with the sideways pass and never gave up on it. I am jaded. So I'm just going to add one thing. This is as a former Browns fan. I've got to say this.
Browns fan, everybody. You're that.
Yeah. I'm officially out.
He's officially out. He's a
Okay,
Bengal fan.
I'm going to tell you
That
what
means
Jimmy,
they may win the Super Bowl.
are you ready for Jimmy Graham's rookie year?
Yeah,
I'm
let's hear it.
listening, Casey Scheinfeld. What is
Let's
it?
see. His stats in 2010, he had
Where do you go? Miami, Florida, right?
65.9 fantasy points for the season.
That doesn't sound very good.
So
What was his yardage and touchdowns?
He had, let's see, let's see. Hold on. Let me get there.
Yeah, see, okay, so Chris says
Okay, it wasn't good. I mean,
Chris says you guys are right, to his credit. He says Graham looks like he took off in the second year, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Look
that's what
for
we're telling
tight ends
you.
in the second year.
We're talking about rookie tight ends never pan out.
All right,
I've never
now,
seen
we got to check this
Kincaid
out.
for Buffalo's not going to pan.
We never finished this last time, Ross. Uncle Ted said, pretty sure Gronk and Aaron Hernandez were beasts. I don't think they were in their rookie year. So let's check it.
Yeah.
Let's check it.
How many people did Aaron Hernandez go? I forgot.
Second year, Jimmy Graham had 99 receptions for 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns.
That was the second year.
Right, exactly. And that's
And
what
he
we're
only
saying.
had one other year of 1,000 yards, by the way, in his career.
I know.
So,
All right, now check Gronk and check Aaron
Gronk.
Hernandez while we're looking at some other things, okay?
Okay.
Let me get back to this sideways pass thing. The Browns are the worst for the sideways pass.
I feel
Here's
like
the thing.
Dan has
It's
a
like-
comeback for everybody who complains about their team. He's like, the Browns are worse.
They are. I mean,
You just say any team, and the Browns
one
are
of-
worse.
this is one of the great joys about being a former Browns fan. I
Atlanta
don't have to-
Falcons, the Browns are worse.
I mean, they are. I can give you all kinds of stats, but
The Browns are worse.
one of the reasons the Browns are worse is they'll be like 3rd and 2. You got Nick Chubb in the game. Let's throw a sideways screen pass that's 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. They would do it over and over and over. I don't understand it all.
Rob Gronkowski had 42 receptions for 546 yards his rookie year, but 10 touchdowns. That's a pretty darn good rookie year.
Okay,
Second
10 touchdowns
year-
I'll give you, but the yardage
Second
is
year, he went to 90 receptions for
there you go.
1,327
Second
The,
year.
yards.
the
Okay.
touchdowns, though, are a little bit flukish. That doesn't sound like the. I mean, yes, that is a good rookie tight end year. It's not what Gronk was.
It's not saying, oh my God, this guy was.
Check out Aaron Hernandez now. I want to see that. Now we're going to keep
All
going
right.
with some while you look at that, Uncle Ted says Jonathan Taylor is going to Miami. Bet. And then he says, imagine Trey Lance traded to the Falcons. That's an interesting trade.
Actually, let's see. Aaron Hernandez stats.
Uncle Ted, I'll give you a newsflash.
His first year, he had 45 receptions for 563 yards.
See, it's just not that good. I mean, that's
Guys,
like
I'm telling
barely
you,
rosterable.
The only tight end that had great stats is Mike Ditka, the famous football coach for the
Yes,
Bears.
and if you
That's it.
drafted him, well, then you've been playing this game
If
for
you're-
a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, our point is rookie tight ends really are very, very rarely pan out. Second year, I'd go for it. They can make that leap.
Yep. Second
Okay.
year we like.
Now, Uncle Ted says, you know how many coaches have won a Super Bowl with 2 different teams? 0. That's why hiring Mike McCarthy is dumb.
0.0.
That's interesting. Zero coaches have won a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. Is that true? I think it is. Yeah, because I was thinking about Andy Reid, but he didn't win a Super Bowl. with the
He made
Eagles.
it to the Super Bowl in Philadelphia.
And then,
Yeah,
the
and
Eagles won a Super Bowl, but without him.
Yeah, they had that other idiot.
That's
Peterson. I'm trying to think. That's
I mean, I think Uncle Ted's right and knows he
Oh,
is,
yeah,
but it's
I'm
just
not
interesting to think about.
yeah.
Here's the
he's
other
right.
thing.
I can't think of it. I
here's-
can't think of.
but
Here's the other reason hiring Mike McCarthy doesn't make a whole lot of sense is how did he even win a Super Bowl? The way that he seems to coach, it does. I mean, look, didn't he win it because of Aaron Rodgers?
well, that's the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady argument.
Okay, and if you look at that, what has happened to Bill Belichick since Tom Brady left? I actually think Tom Brady is winning that argument.
Do you
No
wanna-
disrespect
Yeah,
to
but they
Belichick.
went 11-5 the one year with what's his face.
No.
as the
Hold
quarterback.
on. Listen, Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches of all time. You could even argue the best of all time. Getting that team to 11-5 is incredibly impressive. But you
Guys,
cannot win a Super Bowl without a Tom Brady type.
You just mentioned Bill Belichick, and this is something during the preseason I noticed. I just want to get your opinion. Aaron Rodgers is going to play for the Jets this weekend, and Mahomes is playing preseason also. Both these guys are all pro Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They're playing preseason. And then you got guys like Mac Jones that won't play during preseason. That makes no sense, who needs to get those reps. And even guys like Hurts is not playing during preseason.
Hurts,
What's
I
your take?
understand.
Okay,
Listen.
how about Mac Jones? Why isn't
Mac
he playing
Jones should
preseason?
be playing. No, Mac Jones should be playing. He's
I mean,
not good.
I mean,
he's not good
Mahomes is considerably the best quarterback right now playing subjective. I know it's just, but I have to say he's
Jalen Hurts is a complete quarterback. He already knows how to do it. There's no reason to risk him in the
okay.
preseason. But Mac
But it's
Jones,
just weird that
Mac Jones
Mahomes,
should be playing.
Aaron Rodgers is 41 years old and he's going to play in the preseason for the Jets.
I mean, if
Well,
I
he's
were-
in a new offensive system.
Okay,
too.
Mac Jones has had a horrible year. and
Mac
he's on
Jones is in a new offensive system because
and that
they had a
Zappia
defensive-
guy
they had
is
a
He
supposed
has an
to take
offensive
his job.
coordinator this year.
exactly.
But that
Exactly.
Zappia guy is going to take his job eventually. You guys know that's true.
Don't
I
say
mean,
that to Chris Atwater. That's an Alabama quarterback you're talking about.
Well,
He's-
there's a lot of them to go around.
He's a cheap shard artist too. He should be in jail.
Uncle,
I love Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb is going to be the PPR
he's-
king this year. I love him, Uncle Ted. And yes, I think he's a first round draft pick, definitely in fantasy football. Take
and listen,
Nick Chubb.
he probably was a first round draft pick anyway, but with Kareem Hunt gone, it's even more so.
I do
just
like
remember-
their backup. I do like Ford, the backup. And, just take him.
Yeah,
if you
and
have Chubb, take Ford.
And Ford is actually supposed to be back probably around week 1. He's a good guy to get late. By the way, I just want to put in a plug for this in drafts in general. Have 2 or maybe even 3 of those backup running backs who could be really dynamic runners. Pick them up late in the draft. It's a way to pick up value. If any one of those comes through, it's going to be great for you.
Yep.
All right. Chris Statwater says, not the only reason why hiring Mike McCarthy is dumb, Uncle Ted. So we're piling on Mike McCarthy. I'm sorry, but you are a Super Bowl winning coach, so I bet you're okay. Uncle Ted then says, Jordan Love late could be the real steal of this year's draft. When was the last bad QB in Green Bay? 25 plus years.
Rodgers, Favre,
Majkowski.
yeah, remember him?
Oh,
That's
the
a good
Magic
one.
Man. The Magic Man.
But yeah, having Favre and Aaron Rodgers back to back, you're not going to see many bad quarterbacks. I like Jordan Love. I think he's going to have a good year. He looks great during the preseason. Him and Christian Watson are going to make a great team together. I like Jordan Love that. I like that, Uncle Ted. I like what you're saying here. And yes, I would take Jordan Love as a backup quarterback on my fantasy football team, 100%.
I think he's the perfect backup to pick because you can get him late and he has huge upside. And
Yep.
he's in a situation where you can really imagine him doing very well. I also think Christian Watson is going to have a big year because I think Jordan Love is going to do just fine. And Christian Watson was showing some huge signs. Now, I know a lot of that was loaded into just a couple of weeks, but you can't find that level of talent scoring that many touchdowns. I mean, it goes together. He's that talented, and that's why he was scoring as much as he
Yeah,
was.
I agree with Uncle Ted 1,000% on that one.
Chris Atwater says, Belichick and Mac Jones, baby. We know Chris Atwater is
Oh,
big on
you
Mac
got to
Jones.
be joking.
Go, baby.
We'll see.
Roll Tide.
Okay. Yes, Ross the boss. Sitting Anthony Richardson in preseason, head scratcher.
No, he's playing. He played last week. I watched it.
Did he? All right.
Yeah,
Chris, you'll have to comment on what you were seeing.
Richardson did play. He didn't play that great, but he did play.
That's what I thought. That's what
I
I
watched.
thought.
I watched him play.
But Chris is, but still, he was agreeing with your point. Guys need reps if they are not seasoned.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is playing. Mahomes, who's the Super Bowl MVP, is playing. All these guys are playing. I mean, Mac Jones is on a pedestal. He's not playing preseason. He's that good. Wake up, Chris Atwater. You know I'm right.
There's also people are just so afraid of injuries, and I understand in football, especially with a running back. Like if a running back is experienced, don't play him in the preseason. He's just going to get dinged up. Speaking of running backs, Uncle Ted says Roshan Johnson and Tank Bigsby late all day.
Yeah,
Here's my question:
Case-
can you even get Roshan Johnson late now? I mean, isn't his ADP
yeah,
climbing?
his value's climbing, but you can still get him late for a running back. The thing about
For a running
Roshan
back.
Johnson, if you watch or listen to fantasy shows and read articles, you've heard about him, but not a lot of people are familiar with him because he was Bijan Robinson's backup. So he didn't get he doesn't have big stats coming in, but what he did is he was averaging almost 5 yards a carry in college after contact. So this is a guy who can take a hit and not fall down. And I mean,
and playing on the
Deontay-
Bears,
who's
he's
in
going to
front
take a
him?
lot of hits.
Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman. Those aren't
Yep.
hard ones to get above. And Tank Bigsby, the least efficient number one running back in goal line carries last year was Travis Etienne. And Tank Bigsby is you don't have a name Tank if you're soft. Right?
And
he's
Travis
an
Etienne-
Auburn. He's an Auburn guy. He's SEC,
Right.
so
And
he's tough as nails.
So he's going to get the goal line carries there. And he might even get some early down work if Etienne isn't like getting good yards, isn't efficient
Etienne
in his running.
Also, I mean, I don't know. Can you call a guy injury prone when he was injured 1 year? It's hard to know, but
Yeah.
It's certainly a risk.
Of that list, Frank. Yeah.
All right. Uncle Ted says Green Bay's rookie tight end Luke Musgrave is a freak of nature. Well, if Jordan Love's going to do well, he is a great late
But
tight
again,
end. I
it's
think
rookie-
Ray likes
Uncle
anyway,
Ted, you know
but
how we
the
feel
rookie-
about rookie tight ends.
Right. All right. Kendre Miller late is a must draft. What do we think about that?
Casey,
I'm not a huge Kendre Miller guy. I understand he's a burner, but he's not in a great situation there in New Orleans as much as everybody wants to say he is. I think Devin Achane or whatever his name is in Miami is a much better lottery pick late draft for a running back because he is almost exactly like Raheem Mostert. He fits that offense perfectly, and Mostert is not a picture of health. Miller's got to jump. Jamal Williams, who might have been the most efficient running back in football last year, and in week 3 or 4, Alvin Kamara comes back. So I don't have as much faith.
They also just don't have that good of an offense. I'd rather have the Miami offense with this very similar situation. I agree with you. All right, we're going to finish up on a couple more comments here. Uncle Ted says, getting Dalvin Cook, Zeke, and Kamara rounds 12 plus is wild. I'll take a risk on these 3 with that ADP.
At that point, it's just bench depth.
Well,
you
it is,
really
but I think
5 running backs or 6 running backs on your roster at that point.
The question is, do you see these guys as running backs who can really end up being starters on your team? And Dalvin Cook to me, definitely.
I'll answer this. Dalvin Cook to me, I've been watching Hard Knocks, and he's ready to roll. I mean, this guy is going to have a good season, and I think having Aaron Rodgers there is motivating him. I think Dalvin Cook's going to have 1,000 yards. Zeke, I'm telling you, Zeke's going to have at least 10 touchdowns, at least 10. I don't know how many carries he's going to get during like non-goal line situations. But I like Zeke, especially if you take him in the 10th, 11th round, you can't go wrong. So, I mean, just those 2 guys, I think those are good picks if you get them late. And Kamara, to me, last year, he looked slow and fat. I mean, he did not look good last year, guys.
Zeke.
No, Kamara did not look good. Kamara did not look good.
Neither did
Zeke looked a little heavy, but that's okay. He'll lose weight.
This is one thing about sports. This is one arena where you can call somebody slow and fat, and everybody's just like, yeah, it's true.
No, but Kamara did not look like the back he was a few years ago.
For sure,
he really doesn't.
100%.
And I don't know where he's going in the ADPs right now. I think 4th or 5th round. Is that right, Case?
Yeah.
But I mean, I just don't feel that taking him is the greatest idea, having Jamal Williams as the backup, because I think he's ready to rock and roll back there.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr looks like a professional wrestler. I mean, that guy's really jacked up. I mean, I'm curious to see how he does with all those muscles.
16 team.
Okay, let's get to this. Cameron B says, "Hey fellas, what position are you guys prioritizing in a 16 team full PPR draft?"
Full, I love it. Yeah.
Full PPR. Well, I don't think the amount of teams affects what you prioritize in full PPR. Unless it's super flex, you're prioritizing.
Actually, but I think it does, because think about it. You got to wait a long time if you don't take a wide receiver.
Well, that's what I mean. But you're prioritizing wide receiver in either 12.
I would go wide receiver.
But I'd go wide receiver even
first.
more in a 16 team, because you're going to have to wait longer in between
Just
picks.
heavier, yeah.
Jefferson, Chase, one of those guys. If you get those guys first, if not, you got some other guys you could take in the 2nd round, but I would go receiver at least the 1st or 2nd round for sure.
Okay, and Cameron B says for early rounds, no super flex. Wide receiver.
Yeah, I might be considering taking wide receiver the first 2 picks or even 3.
I would.
But if it's full PPR, your first running back should be Nick Chubb. That's how I would take first, because PPR.
If you get him, if you don't take him in the 1st round in a 16.
Well, you're not going to get him. But I'm saying if you can get Chubb full PPR, he can win you the league.
Although I will say Austin Eckler, very, very tempting.
I like Eckler too. I'm just saying my first running back I would take is Chubb, just because I feel he's going to have a better year than Eckler.
All right, we're going to have to stop in a minute, so we're going to do a speed round on these last ones. Roshan Johnson is Matt Forte, and Felix Jones is giant body.
Matt Forte, he had one good year. What's the Matt Forte reference?
That's because he didn't have Felix Jones's giant body.
Matt Forte.
Okay. Chris Atwater, Richardson, the number 4 overall pick in April's draft, also started the preseason opener at Buffalo, but sat out last Saturday's victory over Chicago.
He did sit out. I guess I watched him against the first. Okay.
Because Tyson thought he had enough, so Ross was right. And
I apologize.
So was Chris.
I saw him play. I guess it was the first game.
Uncle Ted says, I love my TCU backs. Then he says, Kamara out 3 games. Kendre Miller plays immediately.
Oh, I'm not denying he won't get some play in the first 3 weeks, but I just don't think he's...
Right, but I think that's part of why Uncle Ted's saying he's a good value. When you can get value earlier in the season, great. pounce on it because value is value, right?
Yeah,
right
but
when you
Jamal
can get it.
Williams is going to get the majority of the carries.
I
we know
agree
that.
with you. Cameron B says, thanks, guys. It's our pleasure, Cameron. Thanks for joining us here. Join us next week, same time. We're here Thursdays, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Then Uncle Ted says, Matt Forte rookie year was amazing. Was it as good as Jeremy Shockey's? I'm kidding. That's just a little tight end joke for you.
University
Listen.
of Miami.
Yes, exactly. Hurricanes. Now, listen, we got to stop for today. But again, a little plug. We've got 4 spots in our Dynasty Baseball League. We're not going to be talking baseball much more. So let us know. Put it in the comments if you'd like us to get in contact. And in the meantime,
I just
really
traded
close
for,
season.
I have a big fantasy baseball trade. I traded. It's just like a redraft league, but I got Ohtani today. It was unbelievable.
Oh, good job.
I mean,
It was cheap, I bet.
I got him really
The
cheap
hitter or the
too.
pitcher?
I got both. I got
Aren't
both
they
of them
just shutting him
together.
down?
Yeah,
They're shutting him down in pitching.
Yeah,
I thought they should just shut him down entirely.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. It's going to be his decision if he wants to hit anymore, and he's going to say, guys, it's been a great season,
But I want to
I'm gonna
make
call it
50 mil
quits.
next year.
and I'm going to get my operation now, so I have to wait 5 weeks.
For those of you who are watching, by the way, Uncle Ted officially in our baseball league. You got the email. That's great, Uncle Ted. I will let you know. You can't sign up yet because we haven't even figured out what site we're playing.
No,
on.
we'll do it after the season.
gonna
We're
do
going
it
to do it
soon.
after the season. Yeah.
But I got your email. You're set. You're good to go. Then Chris said, send me the darn Fantasy Dynasty baseball link, guys. I will as soon as we have the
I
league.
love Al Warner so much. This guy's the best.
Then Uncle Ted says, smart not trading Ohtani. Great now he walks. All right, guys. It was a pleasure as always. We will do this again every Thursday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Ross. It's been
Oh
a
yeah, and
pleasure.
also wait, hold on, I got another plug.
Okay. Well,
Next
A little
Wednesday,
addendum.
are we having our live football draft?
we are. Next Wednesday, we're having our live football event. Ross, when did we set the time for it? You guys got to tune in for it.
I set the time for 4:30 my time, 7:30
4:30
yours
Pacific,
Eastern.
7:30 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to see us drafting live, we're in 6 days. This is a redraft league. We'll be drafting 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. You guys can see me accidentally draft DeAndre Swift and go ballistic. I'm kidding. That's not going to happen.
You know, DeAndre Swift is below Gainwell on the running back charts.
It does not sound good. Yeah, that does not sound good.
So don't take Swift, whatever you do.
No, follow my lead, and if you do take him,
Rashard
be very
Penny,
angry.
he's the weapon on that team. If he stays healthy.
All right, guys, it's a pleasure. We will see you next week. Thanks for joining us.